I can't tell. Are we on?
I believe we are. The meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. So success, yay. For those of you who follow me, you know that it's always kind of a to see if the technology works or not. But I'm Kelly Coates Gilbert, and I am broadcasting live tonight from Dallas, Texas. I have so enjoyed She's Reading with Kelly Coates Gilbert. Jamie and I were just talking before we went live about how lonely it's getting. And so this is just a way for me to connect. And I really appreciate each and every one of you who have been so faithful to join us every week. But I'm especially delighted tonight because I get to bring Jamie Beck and introduce her. Jamie and I met in New Orleans, what was it, 2 years ago, maybe?
Yes, it was at BLC, right?
Yeah. It was so fun. We were on a women's fiction panel, and it ended up being a packed house, and we just chatted and had a good time. Yeah. And so as soon as I started She's Reading, I knew that I wanted to invite Jamie on board because I knew she'd be a lot of fun. Jamie is a very popular author. Let me pull some of my stats here while I introduce her. First of all, she's a Wall Street Journal bestseller. She writes for an Amazon imprint and is one of their top sellers. She has multiple series. She's going to tell you a little bit about her writing journey, so I won't steal her thunder, but her recent series is Potomac Point, and they are doing very well in the charts. So people are loving them. This is what some of her readers say in their reviews. Jamie pulled me in and didn't let me go until the last page. And here's another one. The characters are so well developed. And then here's another one. I had trouble putting this book down. I love Jamie Beck.
No, that's nice.
So you have
you found the good ones.
Yeah, yay for readers who are so sweet to give reviews. We've talked about that here on She's Reading and how important that is to us as authors. And so thank you to all of you who take the time to do that. But tonight I want to talk to Jamie, and I want to find out, well, we got to know each other over a few cocktails, and we had a really good time in New Orleans. I didn't ever ask what your writing journey was. And so I was excited to ask you that tonight and find out, because didn't you come from a legal career too?
I did. I was a lawyer for about a decade before I was a writer. And I stopped practicing law when I had my first child, my daughter. And I was a stay-at-home mom. I had 2 kids. And once they hit grade school, I found myself with too much free time. And I explored some other options. I didn't really want to go back to law because everyone I knew who did part-time law got paid part-time, but really was working full-time. And I thought that doesn't, plus I never really loved, there were elements about that job that I loved, but I didn't love the career enough to want to commit to it again as a mom of young children. And so at that point, I think I was like 42, 43, 44, somewhere in there. And I thought, I always, from a teenager, I used to think I wanted to write for television shows. I used to love like those nighttime dramas. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll try to write a book. I loved romance and everything. And so I did it in secret. I didn't tell my husband or anybody, because I thought if I don't finish, I don't want to be embarrassed like I started and failed. So when I got about 3/4 of the way through that first manuscript, which is under the bed, and it was like a YA, I was writing from the seat of my pants. I didn't know anything about anything, but I was so excited every day for everyone to leave the house and for me to get there and start creating this world in my head, that by the time I finished it, I knew I had a ton to learn, but I also knew that I was going to make it happen. Like that this was something I enjoyed the process. And then I loved going to workshops and learning what I was supposed to be doing. I think if I had tried to do it the correct way, learning everything first and then trying to write, I might have been a little put off or overwhelmed really by everything that there was to learn. So I think my way worked for me, although I would not necessarily advise it for anybody else.
Sure.
And then it took me 3 manuscripts to get my agent. Although I got my publishing contract from a slush pile manuscript that my agent had passed on, that I had sent to Montlake at the time early on, when they were still accepting unagented submissions. And it was a whole year later, I'd forgotten all about it. And they they got in touch with me to see if it was still available. And that's kind of how I got in there. So it was a very atypical and convoluted path. And I'm a slush pile, story. So they say that hardly ever happens, but it can happen.
My second contract, my 4-book contract came from the slush pile.
Okay, see?
Yeah, my agent did not pitch that one.
Yeah, so it's
at a conference and they remembered me. Yeah.
That's great. And I do think, you hear when you're starting, you hear, oh, it's all about fit and it's this and that. And, of course, any rejection, just like any negative book review, it feels very personal. It's very hard to dissociate that. And which is why I don't read reviews actually. But it is, as I've gotten, wiser and older in this industry, I totally get the whole idea of fit versus not a fit, because there's a lot of books that get a lot of buzz and other people love, and I can pick it up and I can see why people like it, but it's just not doing it for me. So that's like, it's just not a good fit for me, but it doesn't make it not a good book, so.
It's interesting when I discovered that publishing houses actually have branded themselves and that they don't publish everything. They publish in their brand.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to learn. And I love this business because you can never quit learning. Yes. I mean, it's one of those things that, you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it.
Exactly. And it's always changing because technology is changing. The way readers want stories are changing a lot. Trends change, there's just always more to learn. Yeah, it can be exhausting. As my 54th birthday is in a week, and I'm like, I feel older than I did when I started 10 years ago, for sure.
Yeah, but at this age, because I'm at a similar age, and at this age though, we have something to say. We've learned a little bit, and we've experienced some life, and what we put on the page is usually pretty rich, I think, because of our age.
I hope. I think that's one of the big reasons. Excuse me, that just went down the wrong pipe. One of the reasons I kind of wanted to move away from romance and more strongly into women's fiction was I was finding it really hard to write a 27-year-old heroine who was dating, because I think it's so different from when I was 27 and dating. And the references, everything just so different. And at least in women's fiction, I can have a 37 or even a 40-year-old heroine in a story that maybe has a romantic subplot, but that's not the main plot. And it just felt much more comfortable for me to write someone that age. And, sibling stories, mother-daughter stories, whatever. These are things I feel very enmeshed in my own life. So that also makes it feel more authentic to me.
I love women's fiction. I read it. I've always read it. I love contemporary stories. One of the things that I adore is the level of relationships.
Yeah.
And you do that so well.
Thank you.
I mean, your reviews, but your books, even the covers. And for all of you readers, if you've not checked out Jamie's website yet, tell them what it is real quick.
Jamie Beck, and my name is spelled Jamie like a boy, jamiebeck.com.
Go check out her covers because they are the most emotive covers. I love them. Whoever does your covers is doing a fabulous job.
It's always someone different we have lots of fights. I think the art department at Montlake, probably they get the book stuff in for me and they're probably like, oh God, we have to deal with her again. I don't always get my way, but I'm pretty particular. So yeah.
Well, they're lovely.
And I always have nits. There's always things like this book that comes out next, in a couple of weeks. I wanted this orange, the female, the mother in the story is a former artist. And I was like, why can't that be a paint stroke? Like that makes more sense. What's the ribbon? The ribbon doesn't mean anything. It should be a paint strip, but they couldn't do that because it wasn't that's all a bunch of photoshopping stuff. It wasn't like a photo shoot.
Yeah.
So I was like,
We talked about cover design last week on here, and we were talking about how traditional houses, how you work with them to create your covers, and then when you go independent publishing, you do the same thing, but you have a little more control.
You have much more control, obviously, because you get to say if it goes out or not. They're very good. I don't want to complain. And they do a really, there's only 2 covers in all of my books that I don't love. And the rest of them, I pretty much, I was very happy with them. So, but I definitely don't have total control. And we bump up against their deadlines. And then that's it. Like wherever we are at that point, that kind of is as far as we can take it.
Because you have such a lead time. I used to be part of a women's fiction group. There were some of the best-selling authors with Krista Hannon and Jodi Picoult, and all those girls were in it. And they gave what they called the Toilet Bowl Award every year. And it was you had to nominate your book as the worst cover for the year. I actually got it one year. I'll have to, I want to see it now. It was, they had sold the rights to the large print, and they put this horrible cover on it that looked kind of pornographic. And it was just, and the funny thing is the book was set in San Antonio, and they put the Dallas skyline. So it was crazy, but I got the Toilet Bowl Award that year.
That's so funny. I'm trying to think. I know what my least favorite cover is. And actually my least favorite cover was one of my best-selling books. So that goes to show you what I know about anything.
Yeah.
It just wasn't, it was like so dark. And I just thought that's not really the mood, but
yeah. Well, I love your new covers. That new series is just wonderful. Hold it up again.
Yeah. So this one comes out next week.
The 22nd.
22nd, 2 weeks.
22nd.
And this story it turned out really pretty. I have to say, a lot of my heart is in this book because she's a mom of a teenager with anxiety issues. And, she's going through a lot of changes. And I just think we moms, it's tough, right? And you feel a lot like you're always second guessing everything, and you feel like you're alone, and you feel like, oh, I messed up. If I could go back when they were 5, I would do this different and everything would be better. Like all the games that we play. So there's a lot of that with Anne working out, trying to find herself again. Because I think too, as women, we tend to lose ourselves a little bit in those roles of motherhood and wifedom and being a daughter of aging parents and all of these things. Those things all
end up away until there's nothing left. Yeah.
Right. Those things kind of all rise to the top of all the things you're trying to take care of. And the thing that you're not taking care of or nurturing is you. And then in this case, Anne's husband leaves her. And so now she's thrust unexpectedly into having to like re-envision her future. And she doesn't even know who she is anymore. And so I feel like that is hopefully a story a lot of women can relate to, whether you're married, like me, I'm still married, but still that was kind of me as my kids went to school and like, gosh, what am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Or a lot of empty nesters.
I don't even know what I think unless I write it down.
Yeah.
And I discovered much of who I am through the pages of novels.
Yeah. I do feel like a lot of writers are working out their own issues, whether it's childhood issues, current issues, whatever it is. I think that, there's a lot of that goes into the fiction.
Yeah.
So you make up a scenario.
A bad review hurts because we've put ourselves on that page. I mean, those people came from within our head. They were part of us at some level, or something we've seen, but we interpret that and put it on the page. And so, here's a question I like to ask. You said that you were an avid reader first. What was the first book you ever read that made you cry?
Oh my gosh. I have a very terrible memory, and my husband would tell you, like, we kind of have a not so funny joke about like early Alzheimer's. So it's really hard for me to remember. When I was young too, I didn't really read like tearjerker kind of books. But like as an adult reader, books like Jodi Picoult's My Sister's Keeper.
Oh, I love
one of my biggest cry books ever.
Yes. Yes.
I cried hard.
Ending on that, it literally took my breath away.
Oh my gosh,
I did not see that coming.
Yes, the book was fabulous. The movie changed the ending, which changed the whole point of the story. I'm still bitter about that.
Me too.
It wasn't even my book. yeah, I'm trying to think like early, Charlotte's Web probably, if like
Uh,
I think probably, you know, whenever I read that grade school, I know I cried when Charlotte died. So that would probably be it. But
yeah,
yeah, that's hard.
yeah, yeah. So tell me about your community. Before we went live, we were talking about how kind of isolated it is right now. Tell me a little bit about, as an author, what you do to feed yourself and your community of author friends. What does that look like to you? And who are, you know, do you gather with other authors on a regular basis? Do you have some people who look at your manuscripts on a regular basis before you turn them in?
I have it all. I have it all.
Yeah. Oh.
I so before COVID, of course, I had regular, you know, a chapter in Connecticut that I went to monthly, which
Mhm.
was that was more like for the fun and the sort of rah rah of it. From that chapter, though, years ago, I found a smaller group of friends who we were all getting published right around, like our first books were all coming out about the same time. So I'm very fortunate. I have a second home in Vermont, which is just a couple hours from here in Connecticut. And so we started going there, a small group of us, and we go 3 to 4 times a year as a plotting weekend, we call it. It's like a 3 to 4 day weekend we go, and we help each other plot next books. Um, and also, you know, pick each other up as people are down about the ups and downs in their careers. And it's really a wonderful getaway. We love that.
Link
And then
arms
I
and
also,
do it together. Yeah.
what?
You link arms and do it together.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then I have another group of friends, writer friends who live all over the country that I'm close to, like our friend Liz Talley. And we have a private chat, um, you know, that we communicate every day. And it's like where we just go dump everything from like my husband's driving me crazy to I want to write 1,500 words today, make me accountable, you know, to what do you think? These are my 4 cover options. Do you like any, like everything that anything. So they become very dear friends, even though I only see them at conferences. Or we did get together once. I invited them to Vermont, and some of them were able to come. And we're going to try to get together. We have it tentatively planned for March to meet somewhere in the southeast part of the country, and so we're hoping to make that work. So I have those 2 kind of close knit groups of friends that I really like,
Yeah.
can be myself and all my writer insecurity and all my failures and woes and all of that. And then, you know, and then readers,
And,
fans, fan.
and we celebrate each other's successes. I mean, there's
Exactly.
nothing better than when one of our dear author friends gets on the Wall Street Journal,
Yeah.
a bestseller list like you did, and you know, applauding that. And
It is fun because it's, again, it's like a hopeful thing, right? You know, if someone else can do it, anyone can do it.
yeah,
And it is fun to see because it is a hard business. But I was going to say the last group of the community is, to me, the readers, because whether it's the emails I get after they read a book that was particularly relevant to them at the time they read it, or just the general Facebook and Instagram engagement where they're, you know, trying to be a part somehow of my journey, that is a total boost, because without the readers, there's no point. Like if I don't have people who want to read the books and who like them and make me feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile, then I have nothing. So they're actually a big part, even though it might not feel as personal because I don't, you know, they're not texting me. But yeah, so that's sort of the environment. Of course, my agent, she really has to deal with my crazy. So but she's the one that she keeps me from going, you know, way off the path with some really crazy ideas for stories.
and that's the problem when you go independent. Your agent relationship goes primarily goodbye. I mean, I still have my agent. We still, you know, connect and talk, but it's not the same. When there are some readers here, I'm sure, who have never picked up a Jamie Beck book. And so I want you to tell them what they're going to get when they pick up one of your books. What can they expect?
Well, I would say that a common theme in most of my stories has to do with forgiveness and redemption. So I'm a wannabe psychologist, and I really love. I think, you know, on a personal note, I came from a big kind of messy family, and there were a lot of people with a lot of different issues. And I learned very young that you can love someone who has some not so nice traits or some not so great, has done some maybe unforgivable things. But if there's genuine attempts at atonement and things that you can, sometimes you have to make these choices where you love someone, especially if it's a parent or someone really close to you who's maybe harmed you, that, to find that ability to let go of the pain and to work through it. So I do like that. And a lot of my books will have that element in the story. So my characters don't tend to be like all really nice people that you can't wait for everything good to happen to. They tend to be a little bit broken and a little bit damaged. And like I said, I was writing romance. I have one kind of sexy romance series. The others are kind of a blended romance, women's fiction. And now my more recent books are definitely more focused on the women, but they have light romantic plots in them. So I can tell some of my readers are a little confused, like, where's the romance? So we'll see how that goes. But I enjoy the freedom now of writing outside of the romance beats of a story. So.
I always like to say, I mean, people, when they ask me what I write and I say women's fiction, they go, well, what is that? When you say romance, people know what it is. But I like to say that women's fiction, a character or a group of characters comes in the story one way and they leave changed. And it's those events in the middle that change them.
Yeah.
Might be a romance that helped do that, but it's the change that takes place over the course of the novel. And I love those kind of stories.
Right.
Love it.
Well, I think we do, because again, like a romance novel, they're hopeful stories because they don't always, but they tend to end on a happy note. When a story's focused on a woman, but it ends with maybe a sadder note, like the My Sister's Keeper or whatever, that to me, then I just call that like general fiction or book club fiction. But for me, women's fiction still tends to have a hopeful ending. So that's, I'm still writing hopeful endings.
Something that you can take and tuck in your emotional pocket and take with you, and a lesson learned, or a little bit of hope, or and something broadly
relatable that I feel like, at least for me, sometimes I come up with ideas that aren't, and my agent's like, that's not going to really resonate with a lot of readers. Even if it's an interesting story idea. So for me too, trying to come up with things that, even if it's not the exact situation someone's in, it's similar enough that it feels very present in their own life. And I try. I don't know if I always succeed.
It's funny because I wrote a novel, A Woman of Fortune, and the woman in there makes a choice that few expect, and probably few would choose the same. And I get lots of letters telling me that, but people loved her, and I connected with her. And so, when I was reading through your reviews, it's very clear that your characters are much loved, very real characters.
Thank you.
Tell me what process do you use to develop characters? Do you have like a set process, or do they just kind of form? You have that.
I have it out because I'm actually, I have the book that's due in early October. I sent to a couple beta readers. And so I'm kind of taking a 1-week break. So I'm starting to get deeper into the characters of the book. I'm going to start as soon as I turn that one in. And so I'm like, I kind of know who they are, but I'm like, I need to come up and make them a little bit more complicated and troubled. So I pulled out Donald's book, and the questions are excruciating because it's so much work. Like, you can sit for 2 hours to try to answer one of those questions. And I haven't actually done that in a while. I've been a little bit, I feel like sometimes, you get into a contract and your books are due and you feel like you don't have time. But I'm making myself this time go through that exercise again, because this story is going to require it to pull the story off, I think. So I really need to get it.
For those of you who do not live in our writing world, there is a man named Donald Moss, and he is known far and wide as one of the best book doctors there is. And he does seminars and conference workshops, and he's written a lot of books about how to write fiction much better. And some of the things that he has taught, I just hold in my head. Like every time you hit a tension point, his voice starts in the back of my head. How can you make this worse?
Yeah.
How can you make this harder? How can you make this matter more? It's just constantly playing in my head.
One of my favorites of his was the third level emotion. So like to surprise the reader, don't go for the obvious reaction. Don't even go for the next one. What would be the third related but different take, you know, and try to figure that out sometimes. So he's got so many really great pieces of advice, although sometimes they don't always work for a romance genre or even maybe like very hopeful women's fiction, because you know, he does tend to like darker and more literary kinds of things. And I know my editor and even my agent's like, no, you can't do that. You know, your readers are not gonna.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So it does have to do with the reader expectation a little bit.
I like stories that are meaningful and multi-layered, but I like stories that when I close the last page, I go, oh, you know, I love this.
I think we all do. Although it also depends on your mood, right? So I just read two very different books. I just read The Vanishing Half, and then I followed that up with Beach Read. So I really can't think of two
more diverse,
more different, you know, styles of writing, storytelling tone, seriousness of subject matter. Like, I mean, honestly, I could not have picked two more opposite books, but they were both equally great in their own way. And
I was just looking for I can't even remember the name of it now, but what's that one that is hitting all the best-selling shelves right now, that one that was really oddly written. It was written in a very narrative style. I packed all my books away. I just was getting too many and they were piling on the floor. So I packed some of them in the closet in the other room. Otherwise,
what was that like? Do you remember the cover color or anything?
No, but you know what? I'll find it and I'll post it in She's Reading. So, but I wanted there's a couple of other really fun. I pulled some questions because I want some new questions to start asking authors. Here's a really fun one. What did you do with your very first book earnings?
Gosh, put it in the bank.
I know.
I don't think I did anything, but I mean, honestly, my husband runs all the money stuff. I just hand him everything and he runs everything. So I don't think I did.
Never like taken a big celebration or like when you hit the wall.
I found out about the contract. We were driving up to Vermont with the kids. It was like in March. So we were going for a ski weekend, and my agent called me in the car to tell me we got the offer. And so we stopped on the road and we had like Chinese food and like had a toast, and that was it. And then we went and we skied, and then it was back to life as normal. Like I'm not, I see all the time people celebrate and they have bottles of wine. They go out every time a book comes out and stuff. And I said to my husband, you know, every day for me is just another day. I don't know. I am not really exciting. That's so sad. I have to do something next. For this book, I'm going to do something. I don't know. I got to start plotting it now.
Yeah, you're going to have to ask your author friends, if you can't come up with some kind of a way to celebrate, make them come up with something for you. And then you'll have to.
It just feels like a job to me, like the law or anything like that. So, because I didn't even celebrate. We didn't do anything to celebrate. Like when I hit the Wall Street Journal, I just don't. Like, it's just like, yay. Okay, you know, but I still.
I see you on another list. I'm sending you some party balloons. I am.
I think I just, like I said, maybe it's the way I was raised, you know, that everyone just works really hard and you know, you're happy when you have success, but you know, you're only as good as the last thing you do, and you better just keep working hard. Like that's sort of the headset I was raised with. That is sad.
Well, you know, not necessarily, but I think it's unique because every author I know, when she types the end, there is something to celebrate. I mean,
I feel like a sense of celebrate. Like I feel like a sense of, well, I really feel a sense of relief. To me, the hardest part is that first draft. Editing, everything else is easy. I can, even if I have to in edits change literally half the story, that's still easier to me than getting that first draft down. So
Mhm.
that I do have a big sense of relief, but I guess I just always felt so busy, like the kids are always, I just didn't feel like, well, I don't know, it's just part of the job. So it doesn't feel like something to celebrate. I don't know.
Well, I can tell that you came out of the legal field, because that is a common workhorse mentality in law firms. I mean, everybody's just working.
Yeah.
And when you win a case, you
You're
get in
expected to
the
win.
paper,
Like that's the
watch
goal.
dinner, and you start again on the next case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me see some of these, because there were some really good ones here. Let's see. Oh, if you could tell your younger writing self anything, what would it be?
My younger writing self.
Mhm.
Actually, this is a good one because I spent a long time trying to write like authors I admired. So in the beginning, let's say, as I was getting into romance and reading more romances to understand the genre,
Mhm.
like a Lisa Kleypas or someone. So I was trying to write like them. And then a Barbara Samuel, Barbara O'Neill, or Sonali Dave, these writers that have this very pretty voice. Or I liked Lisa Kleypas, to me, had like very smart, she had a
Yeah,
smart
our
voice.
characters are smart characters.
And I was so busy trying to write like them. And I was always frustrated because that's really not my voice. I'm a much more direct and frank and that's really more my writing voice too. And actually Barbara O'Neill said to me after like a year of me complaining about this to her, she's like, stop it. Lean into you. You do you, lean into your voice. You'll find your readers, and they might not be the same readers as my readers, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have to write your books your way. And it was sort of very freeing to be
Yeah.
told that by someone I admire, and to be kind of given permission to not have to be like someone I admired in order to be good in my own way. And
Yeah.
so if I could go back to the beginning, that's what I would tell myself, would be authentic to you. You're not going to be able to be, I can't write like some of these other people. I can only write like me because my brain only thinks and views things the way that it does.
Yeah.
So it was very freeing to get that
No,
advice.
I mean, I started She's Reading in May, I think, maybe the end of April. And so I've had quite a few romantic women's fiction genre authors come through. Primarily, I wanted to, at least initially, offer people who wrote in this genre, because I kept getting emails saying, well, why don't you put books out faster? And I can't. I mean, I write as fast as I can, but I knew that these people were voracious readers and wanted to read stories like what I write. So I wanted to introduce a bunch of authors. But of all those authors, you're right. There's not a one. There's not a one who writes the same as the other one.
No.
Genre.
And that was too, but it took me a while to really realize how many, some people love like the Christina Laurens of the world, and some people love, just all the different voices that are out there, and they're really very, very different. And so that's the encouraging thing for writers, I think. And what I try to tell new writers coming in is there are endless number of readers. Your job is to be authentic so that people who are looking for the stories you want to tell the way you want to tell them are going to find you.
Yeah.
And it will resonate, because if you're authentic, it's going to come through. That emotional tone will come through.
Yeah.
So that's my number one advice to myself
Well,
or anyone else.
It's good advice, because your sales numbers are something to be very proud of.
Well, thank
you. The books that you write, the series that you've written have huge followings for a very good reason. You're a very good writer.
Thank you.
And I want to, before we go, anyone who's here tonight for the first time may not know this, but we can't see your comments. You're able to put comments on Facebook. We're broadcasting from Zoom, live streaming onto Facebook, but that doesn't allow us to see your comments. So when this is over, Jamie and I will go to those comments and we'll answer anything that you're posting. So if you have questions about, that you want to pose to Jamie, she'll answer all of those there. I'll answer them too, but y'all know me. But and then Jamie's going to offer us a giveaway tonight, and tell them what that's going to be.
Well, actually, the book that came out in the spring, this one, so it's the first Potomac Point book. I'm going to give away, actually, it's on sale this month for only $1.99. So how about I'll give away 5 copies, And so 5 people can, I'll give away 5 digital copies that I can have emailed to you if you have a Kindle or a Kindle app on your iPad. And yeah, so how about that?
Oh, and before I forget, Jamie writes for an Amazon imprint, which means, you know, her books are for sale, but she's also in Kindle Unlimited. I
Yeah.
know a bunch of you are in Kindle Unlimited, so you can hop right over there and start reading, you know, Jamie clear through her whole catalog of books.
Yeah,
The ones
and
that
they're
are
in
on.
print, audio, and digital. So whatever
Yeah.
format you like,
Yeah.
they're all in all formats. And
That's good news for you Kindle Unlimited subscribers. I also do what I call rapid fire questions. And these are
oh
just
boy,
questions that I ask and you
this
just
is my deer in the headlight moment coming.
yeah, they're easy though. All right, so here we go. Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Pie or cake?
Cake.
Beer or wine?
Depends on what I'm eating, but probably wine.
Stilettos or flip-flops?
Flip-flops.
Dawn or sunset?
That is hard. But I'll say dawn. I am a morning person, so I'll go with dawn.
Swimming or walking?
Walking.
Beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Cook or takeout?
Cook. I do like to cook. I like it more when I'm cooking for people who enjoy good food. When I'm cooking for my teenage son who only likes pizza and burgers, not so much.
Campground or resort?
Oh, resort. Although I do like to camp, but if I had to choose one, it would be resort.
And the last one is flowers or massage?
Flowers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big flower person.
Me too. I get new flowers every week because I can and I want to.
Yeah,
In Dallas, we don't have a lot of flowers outside, so I get them for inside.
that's nice.
Before we go, I want to tell them how they can connect with you in all the places. If you go to the website, jamiebeck.com, and she spelled it Jamie, you will find links to her newsletter. So sign up there, and you'll also likely find links to all her Facebook and BookBub and Instagram. So go there and just, you know, connect with her on all those places. And I guarantee, I know you readers, I know what you've told me you love. I know that you are going to love Jamie's books.
Thank you.
So,
That's very kind of you. Very kind praise. I
and
appreciate
that book that's coming out September 22nd is on pre-order. So you guys pop over there and pre-order that. It
Yeah.
helps an author, the more numbers that are being ordered prior to publication date, it kind of gives a little clue to the retailers that this is going to be a hot release, and that's helpful. So
We'll see.
anyway, and with
Well,
that,
thank you
we'll
for
go ahead
having
and
me.
wrap it up.
It was nice to see you again and chat with you and catch up.
It was
I
fun.
hope that the next time we meet, it's actually in person.
Me too. Me too. I really do. And maybe we can talk, Liz, and you guys met Liz here a couple of weeks ago, into meeting us somewhere, and we can connect.
Yes, I keep telling her because she posts all the time pictures of that lake where
Yeah.
they go on the weekends, and it looks so pretty. Although then she posted that spider, and I was like, maybe not.
I live driving distance. I live in Dallas, and she lives just on the other side of the border into Louisiana. And so I've been there. It's a beautiful place.
It looks so pretty. I know. It looks very peaceful. That dock,
Yeah.
you know, it just looks so peaceful. And I went to college in Louisiana. I went to Tulane, so I'm somewhat familiar with that area. But
good.
Well,
Well,
nice to see you. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Put those comments. That's how you're going to win those 5 books that she's going to choose, and we're going to announce in the morning. So watch in the morning. There'll be a post announcing who the 5 winners are. All right, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everybody. It was nice talking.
And we'll see you in the comments. We'll go there right after this ends. All right. Good night. Night, Jamie.
Bye-bye.